This video here, this is an example of the resolution that I defended my clean criminal career using. It's interesting. See the lag and everything like that? The dark color, the nothingness, the lack of anything resembling humanity. I did this while being pushed into a cubicle after being held in a glass cage with 40 criminals or potential criminals. It's interesting, and all of this happened ironically for the fact that I shared a photograph that was already existing in a digital environment, and I reshared it with the comment that this will probably send me to jail, and did. That criticism was not directed at the party who initiated my imprisonment. The criticism was labelled at the structure that was allowing this type of thing to go on. We are in this one of the strangest predicaments you could ever imagine. We're in a situation where a materialistic, atheistic offshoot is trying to conquer a civilization that was built on religious terms, and its establishment was built on religious terms, and we haven't had a referendum to do with that. So this is an interesting place to be in, and one that is a lot larger than any magistrate I encountered could seem to perceive, and that is the most worrying thing I can imagine. That's because there is a simplification that I can't understand. I can't understand how these things are just going through. How these, I personally feel a responsibility towards my children's mother. That one, these are the facts. We were never married. The way we met each other below the age of adulthood. We lived together below the age of adulthood. Because, and this is the problem. These stories aren't simple. These duties of responsibility aren't simple. Families aren't simple. And so the thing that guides me is an inherited responsibility for the protection of past, present, and previous members of my family. In the way that I feel is the most appropriate and responsible and safe way to do that. This is all just such a mess. And we can't allow it any longer. We're off in the absolute weeds here. And it's because we don't, whereas when I look back in history, there was it's not clear
how this is all, like, where are we going? What is this opposition that has come in and tried to overthrow our constitution? What is that? What is the backing of that? What is its ideal? It isn't marriage. It isn't families. It isn't security. It isn't prosperity. Well, not for me. Not for my class. I don't even know what that means, my class. I don't know what it is, other than a mechanism to employ an ever-increasing public service that has turned on its own people, and we have nothing to show for it except for pictures. That structure is cannibalistic at this moment. And it's quite easy to prove. And this is because, like, we had government-funded projects in the past. They're now getting further and further into the past. And now what we have is a public standing bureaucratic army that is attacking its own citizens and undermining the assets and security of those citizens on our very shores. That's just is the structure. There's no way it's not. I have no hope of entering that structure. I have no hope of protecting myself against the attacks of that structure. That structure is not benefiting anyone it is claiming to be benefiting. And it didn't even take the time to understand the complexity of a situation in front of it. It didn't even participate in that in a human-to-human, let alone scale. Not even, it's like a screen. I was a screen. You were a screen. And this is the mess we're in. And this is what Scale Matters is about. Scale Matters is about, like, this is all, this is all just, like, a complete mess. And the idea that Scale Matters is not a mess. It's to make it not a mess. It's to build it how you would have built it if you knew what we were going to get to, but we didn't. So it's not like this was just an evolutionary period of a technology, but we need to go back and go, okay, now that we know where this technology is capable of, we've kind of hit a stagnation point, not with AI, that's the new frontier. But as far as we can now have the best cameras you could possibly get. We have the fastest internet. We have all the capabilities. We have the screens with high definition. We have all the sound. We've hit, like, the last 4 years has shown that we're at that dead end. It has to become a hardware issue, and it has to become an incorporation method and issue and methodology in order to get to a place that, if we'd known that was going to be possible, we would have designed to always, which is always the proper scale. And then, if you're going to make these leaps and bounds into a type of society that is the antithesis of what it was built on, that's constitutional changes. My commitment to my children's mother, for me personally, is a commitment I made to her late father, who died when she was 18, who never knew that we were going to have children together. And so you can see, under God, how I made a commitment to that woman that wasn't marriage. There was an offer of marriage there, and that got rejected. But there was a caring thing, which I would do under my own free will. I don't need to be instructed when and how to exactly do it. And I especially don't need to be destroyed by that system claiming to do good. I don't need every assumption of every person I've interacted with claiming that I'm trying to somehow interfere with a new marriage, which I am not. In fact, like, I've been trying to incorporate that new marriage into an already existing arrangement, which has just been completely neglected. And this is where, like, that is my example. If I lived with someone, basically, I mean, we were, however, involved, but basically as a sibling, and the head of their family died, there is some responsibility that was taken on there. And I exhibited that responsibility for a long, long period of time. And that responsibility continued on in a way disconnected to a point where there's no, like, none of the religious precedents existed in that. But we're dealing with something that is just very complicated. And when I look to the top of the structure that we have the royal family, and we have, I mean, all those laws were built on, and this isn't to do with removing women, but they were built on the idea of a head of a family. You're not exhibiting behaviour that is the head of the family when you are trying to destroy and remove a member of that family that had been the backbone and the only supporting person in that family for almost 2 decades. And this is where, and so that is a degraded system of response that has no actual responsibility, that is purely just interfered. That is unconstitutional. I was imprisoned for that. That is unconstitutional. It's what it was written for. It's the exact thing it was written for. These names, those children carry my name. That name is carried back through every generation beforehand. I am not going to be thrown under some ideological bus to nowhere and lose that train of history that I have maintained, that I am the end of. Because that is bringing into direct conflict the leader of our Commonwealth, the head of our Commonwealth. That is their entire structure of them existing. So if you are coming into conflict with my support of my structure, then you are bringing into disrepute that structure, which is treasonous. That structure exists because of many other structures agreeing to that structure existing, and I will continue to support that structure. And what happened to me, although off in a dark, dusty, hidden corner of the world, that I have not allowed to happen because I have spoken it out into this world, is that an attack on my family is an attack on the head family of this Commonwealth. And I would say it's an intentional attack to destabilise that structure, which is it is treason. And I mean, that treason would exist even if it wasn't being openly acknowledged and openly warned about when it was going on. The fact that I was actively, in a provable way, bringing this to the attention of the head of our state, either his system of whatever is just incompetent and has purely got it, like, has maintained the one-way relationship it had with pseudo media institutions of the past and continue that on into an environment that does not operate that way. So that's the incompetence of his staff to get a very important message through that is to do with direct conflict with the Constitution and treasonous acts being reported to them as that. And this is the same as the individuals who initiated that warning, or that, I made it very clear what I was doing, and all of that was disregarded. And this is where I'm claiming that the mandate, trust the science, bringing that in, that mandate was an attack on the religious connection that this country was built on. It positioned, and the worst thing was, it wasn't even science. You positioned a slogan of a known corrupt, known criminally negligent corporation and industry above the Constitution and above God in this country. And without fail, you all did it. And in my personal life, that brought my imprisonment, brought the removal of my children for over a year, brought the collapse of my business, which I had been running for 10 years, brought the attack of my reputation in my community, in my state, in every single thing, because that is the strength to which you invoked this treasonous slogan, and invoked a fear that positioned the people of this country to do as they're told. And now you have us in a position where there are conflicts going on at every level of our society. You've attacked the head of our Commonwealth by positioning slogan and PR and idol worship above the structure that the Constitution is based on. You are the head of some type of thing, but it is not the Commonwealth of Australia. And any person claiming that, you were not in that. You are so far beyond your oaths. You are so far out into the wild of that structure that it's not even funny. You just have the illusion that you are doing that. How far will you keep going, I wonder? And all that will happen is every one of those, because you're on a floating ship of your own making, and this is people that are directly in it, and then people that benefit from it as well, all going along. And once clear, firm accusations start to be made in this regard, because this is what it is, this is what you have done, then that structure you think you are leading will just disintegrate into infighting and collapse as they scramble to try and find the stable ground that you have removed from under their feet. And I'm the first person to say, I think the religious institution that this is built on, I think we do need some work to deal with the incorporation of traditional belief structures, because traditional belief structures are the same. It's like we're talking about a cake. It's the same cake. It's just the ingredients of the cake are slightly different. But you've tried to make like a sausage roll. It's not a cake anymore. You could kind of say a sausage roll is a cake, but it's not. You've tried to make something else. And unfortunately, the Constitution is a reference to a cake, not to a sausage roll. And I know that sounds, you know what I mean? That's like, what's he fucking talking about? He's gone mad, he's talking about cakes. But if we have the Christian idea as a unified God, or yes, it does have the Christ figure within it as the highest point. But the Christ figure can be seen could be understood by Aboriginal culture the same way we can understand their myths within the same story, because we all exist on the same land. We are all God's people. And it comes down to like what we call it and how we look at it. That is very dependent on the lens that we are in. And this is where, like, because of my upbringing, I have both. And there is no conflict in my mind. There was a conflict. I shouldn't say there's no conflict, because there was a conflict. Trying to balance out that spreadsheet wasn't particularly easy, but I did manage to do it. And all I do from the Christian standpoint, it's like, yes, our job as Christians is to learn how to do this, learn how to see this for what it is. That's our job. And it's the same with the one. And once we can learn to communicate, then we can learn to receive what I see to be the same on the other side. But we need to stop thinking that ours is superior, and we don't do that by introducing some separate thing to do with science that should, because the problem is that science does not come under God. And it can. Science was actually, the modern concept we have of science was initiated by people very, very interested in God. They were trying to say the universe, everything in knowing is a painting, and God is the artist, God is the painter, then science was the studying of the brushstrokes, is how science began. This atheistic science revolution is a dead end, because it just keeps finding God everywhere. So it keeps finding God and then trying to be in conflict with God, and we're going to get stuck. The Aboriginal mind can easily accept the Western version of God, because it's not that far removed. It's all down to like the cultural things are different, and that's like, guess what? If you drop someone, and this is from London, my family's from London. I have thousands of years of history in England, and I got planted in the bush here, and guess what? I landed in a place very similar to what Aboriginal culture is. How do we know that the Aboriginal people aren't just a collection of the world's shipwrecked, or like people that have wandered off on bits of... Do you know what I mean? The Aboriginal mindset is the required mindset if you land here with not a lot of other people. That's how you'd live. I wouldn't go start immediately building a city. I'm not going to build Sydney Harbour if I wander off by myself. I never would. It would take me 40,000 years to maybe assemble someone, and it's probably still not going to happen. We made Sydney Harbour because we came here with 1,000 years of stable societal structure. That's why we were able to do it. It has nothing to do with our brains or anything. It's to do with the best strategy for where you are and what you are. Why would you build any of these things if you weren't building a settlement? You just wouldn't do it. There wasn't a need. You stayed within it. We can build these places, but if we lose connection with the sustainability of the landscape, then we all lose the game. That is the story of civilization. When you look around, it's it's a tapestry of overturned monopoly tables. Well, oh, what happened there? What happened to that monopoly? Like that's what you look at any civilizational structures there. You're like, what happened there? What happened there? What happened there? What happened there? This place, this territory, this has the best chance in the world of solving that problem. And we have the when everyone has the equivalent of a NASA supercomputer in their hand, we have the greatest chance in the world to ever do it. And when we have the stable, consistent culture of the British Empire to guide that, well, we can do it. When we have got to a place of understanding of past misdoings and reconciliation, we're on the path of reconciliation to that. We can do it, but it needs to go both ways. And we don't do that by sticking Aboriginal people in a cage and making them speak to a computer screen like this. I've been in business, pretty serious business. I've had serious business negotiations, things like that, for my entire life. And I found that incredibly difficult, let alone pulling someone whose grandparents were probably stolen from them, whose entire culture is coming to thing, who cannot walk into any place in this country still without being looked at differently. And then they have to talk to a computer screen in a structure that they've had no time to develop to. Because I think we have inbuilt abilities to be able to negotiate these environments. Of course we do. The court systems have existed for how long in Western culture? An equivalent system did not exist in Aboriginal culture. It did, but not the same. It wasn't the same, like, it wasn't, they didn't have the idea of a state, so them interacting with, they don't have developed thing to the state. And that's not because they're less than, it's because they didn't do that. They did it in a different way. The same as there are tribal people in, I can't remember where, Tuvalu, pretty sure, they have these adaptations with their eyes that they can dive underwater and their lungs because that's how they got their food. These social skills that I'm exhibiting, these social adaptations that I'm exhibiting to defend my rights and my family's position, these are adapted. I now know it for certain. These aren't, and they were activated by the removal of them, and then so they're activated. This is defence. When I go back in history, I see someone with my surname knighted, and I go, what was he? He was a politician in the House of Commons, and he was knighted for that. Why? Because he obviously defended the crown, defended whatever he did. He got knighted. That was 1600. So that's 400-500 years ago. It's like this is that's a long time. That's a lot of generations of interacting with this environment. That's why it came as second nature. And I think it makes a lot of things make sense to me, because I've always been in conflict with this authority, because the authority was removing hundreds of years of things that were fought for by my ancestors. And I wasn't taught that, because that's part of the trick, is to remove that historical thing, which is direct attack on the crown in disguise, which is treason. Unless you want to petition it forward, I think at this point you kind of have to. Like, the exposure of that by someone with relative history, relative historical, like, authority to be able to do that. Can we get this done now? You want to try and do it, you try and do it. I want to know where I'm at. And you do it now. You do it now, while you've been exposed. Because we're not continuing on. Now that this has been exposed, you put it to the people. Call an election. King or Albanese. King or the Labor Party. That's because that's what it is. Let the people decide. And I have no doubt what the answer of that will be. And then the Labor Party can be disbanded. The remnants of that party, the new members, do you know what I mean? Members that's what should happen. You can create a new party and call it something else, but the Labor Party should be stricken from this land. Because you weren't even protecting the things that you basically built your party on. Because that person is staring you right in the face. In the changed landscape. So you're perceiving me as some type of business operator. I didn't get to that stage because you fucking pushed us all out. I'm a solo person doing that, trying to build infrastructures that could be that, and you remove that. So you were so far away from what the Labor Party was created to fight against. And you've just been exposed. You've been exposed by someone sweating their ass off, talking to a shitty webcam in a place they built for $3,000. And so well done. Well done. You've taken however long the history of that party has been there for, and you've thrown its reputation in to the point where I'm now requesting you either put a referendum, and like very soon, to the people that you want to be the leader of this country over the sovereign, and you think you have the proven track record, and you know what I mean, you've handled this in a way that is responsible, or you disband the Labor Party. Or we keep pushing through and we request for a digital parliament. And we'll go off and do our things, and then we'll meet you head to head in that environment once we do that, and we'll make you obsolete. So yeah. Technology, eh?